everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am bringing you my February book wrap-up. And before we get started, let me just address the fact that I keep hearing noises like behind this wall, even though the outside is behind this wall. We got a lot of snow and ice rain yesterday, and I feel like it's just like pieces of ice falling everywhere, but I'm not sure. It's kind of creeping me out because all of a sudden I'll just hear something, I'm like, oh, what's that? But anyways, I didn't read nearly as much in February as I did in January. As you guys, if you guys watched my January wrap-up video, I read 13 books in January, which is insane for me. And I think I kind of burned myself out a little bit, which is why I didn't read quite as much in February. Although I'm glad I did read more than one book, it just wasn't as much. Technically, I read 4 books in February because I finished the other one that I was working on yesterday on March 1st. So technically it doesn't count, but I'm going to include it in this wrap-up anyway because to me it just kind of makes sense. So the first book, I don't have it on me. I have been borrowing books from the library a lot lately because I don't have extra funds for a lot of buying books right now. So I've been kind of just using the library. I used to go to the library all the time and I didn't for the longest time, and now I have been again and it's been awesome. But anyways, the first book that I read in February was Crooked Kingdom by Leah Bardago, and it is the second and last installment of the Six of Crows series, and I absolutely loved it. Honestly, that series is just so dear to my heart right now. I love it so much. The characters stole my heart, and it was just so very well written. And it was just lovely. It was fantastic, and I can't wait to have a little bit of extra money so I can finally buy those books and have them on my shelf because they deserve a place in my library. The second book I read I also do not have on hand, and it is Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. I have slowly been making my way through reading Harry Potter for the first time. I was one of those people that didn't grow up with it, so I am just super happy to be going through it. I have become a die-hard Potter fan. I got myself a Hogwarts sweater before Christmas, and honestly I have been just wearing this non-stop. I also have a Slytherin scarf because yes, I am in Slytherin, and it has just been awesome. Prisoner of Azkaban was really, really good. I absolutely enjoyed it. I loved meeting Sirius Black for the first time because I loved him in the movies, although I felt like he should have been in there more, and I'm glad that it is like that in the books because he's Harry's godfather. He should be in his life more than just a couple of minutes in movie time. So, I mean, I've always loved the book more than the movie anyway for that reason because they add so much more detail. And the next 3 books I'm going to talk about I also got from the library, but I read them within the last 2 weeks, so I have them on me so I can show them to you. The third book I read was The Giver by Lewis Lowry, and I watched this movie. I remember really enjoying it, and I was just kind of browsing around at the library the one day and all of a sudden stumbled upon this one, and I was like, oh, I remember that movie, I should read the book. And I read it, and funny thing is, I thought this was a standalone novel. I did not realize that it was part of a series. Then when I posted it on my book Instagram in my stories, I was talking about it, someone mentioned the fact that it was a series. I was like, oh my goodness, that is amazing, because I hated the way this book ended. It was so open-ended. I'm like, there's so much more to this story. Like, it can't just be its own story, and or it can't just be its own book, and I didn't bother to check if it was part of a series or not. But I'm so glad it is. And I can't wait to read the rest of them. I'm not sure when I will, but it's just comforting knowing that there's more out there. But yeah, this book was really good. And then a series that I wanted to reread this year is The Chronicles of Narnia, so I borrowed The Magician's Nephew from the library. Read this in, I think it was like 2 days. The Giver I read in like a few hours because it was large print and it's a really small book. But yeah, The Magician's Nephew I read in a few days, and I could have just used my version. I have... Where did I put mine? What? Where did it go? Where did my Chronicles of Narnia go? Oh, it's up there. Okay, now I see it. It's with my inheritance cycle of my Harry Potter books. I have like the entire series. It's just in one gigantic book, and I don't like reading out of massive books, so that's why I just got the first one at the library, and I think I might continue with that. I just like having a single book to read. I don't like it when there's like a ton of them mashed into one. I'm weird like that. But yeah, it was great rereading it. It was a quick read. It was great. and I'm looking forward to just diving more into the world of Narnia, because that series, again, is so dear to my heart. I read it when I was in elementary school, and it's just such a fascinating story. I've always loved fantasy, and that was one of those stories that just really blew me away with everything at the time, and I just really enjoy the concept and everything, so I'm looking forward to finishing it. So those were the 4 books that I technically read just in February, and the book that took me until March 1st to finish was Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, technically because it is a massive book. Most people are like, oh, it's not that big, but for me it is, because I normally don't read very thick books, and the jump in thickness between Prisoner of Azkaban to Goblet of Fire is insane. Like, it's twice as big as the previous one, but I absolutely loved it. It was a wild ride. I knew what was gonna happen. Like, I've watched the movies, so I knew that Cedric, spoiler for people who haven't read it yet, close your ears, that Cedric was gonna die, and I knew it, but like the way that they handled his death and everything was really well done, and it made me cry a little bit, I have to admit. And the toast that Dumbledore did for Cedric at the end of the school year was just, oh, it just touched my heart. And everything, like, it was so well done. All of the tasks that Harry had to do for the Triwizard Tournament, or that all of them had to do, but like, yeah. And it was just very well thought out. I loved all the little details and everything in this book, and I thought it was incredibly well done. Absolutely loved it, and I can't believe that I'm like halfway through Harry Potter now, and it's crazy because I never thought that it would take me this little amount of time to like get through the story, but I've been enjoying it so much. I've just been flying through all the books, and I love it. So yeah, that concludes the technically five books that I read in February. Starting tomorrow, if this video goes up today on the 2nd, starting the 3rd of March, I will be joining in on a reading through Middle-earth a challenge, technically, that someone is hosting on book Instagram, and basically we're going through all of the Lord of the Rings books, starting with The Hobbit, and having you can either just read as many chapters as you want, as long as you're ready for the discussions that are on certain days, or you can actually follow a reading plan where you say read chapter 1 on March 3rd, read chapters 2 and 3 on March 4th, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading through Middle-earth, basically, with a bunch of other people that are a fan of Lord of the Rings. I have actually never finished Lord of the Rings. I finished The Hobbit, but the other books, they were just written too complicated for me at the time, because I tried reading them when I was, I think, in elementary school or high school or something, and I just wasn't that into reading at the time. So it was just a lot harder for me to concentrate enough to finish the series because of the way it's written. But The Hobbit was written after, right? So it's written in a different style, so that one I managed to get through and I really enjoyed it. And I know I'll like the other ones too, because I love the movies, but it's just I never got around to it. So now I'm finally getting to it, and I'm so happy that I'm going to, and it should be fun. But other than that, I plan to do a library tour this month, hopefully sometime, because I finally finished my reading bench for the library. I stained it and everything. And the only thing that I need to do for it yet is create a cushion for it. So once the cushion is complete and I've kind of cleaned up in here and reorganized a few things, then I am going to be doing a library tour. And because a lot of people on Instagram really were interested in seeing my library, and I love my library. It's my favorite room in the house, so I definitely want to show it to you guys. But yeah, and then I have a couple of other video ideas that I plan to work on. I've been super busy with work lately, but hopefully I'll get back into the swing of things. But I hope you guys are doing well. So until next time, never stop dreaming or shooting for the stars, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!